Arab King. There we go. That's better. I've got my mic on. Chewy, you need to get into their mic. Are you there, mate?
Hey.
Hey. We got you. We can hear you.
I guess I'll thank you guys for doing the mahi, Pat and Chewy, bringing on people like Bomber and the ideas that you guys are talking about. My question was kind of around political marketing, I guess. So it's a slight aside. Yeah, I grew up in like Whakatane, where if you go on the wrong street, you sort of see a conga line of black power. So I grew up with like a rural New Zealand background, and it really made me empathize with heaps of people that didn't have anything. I eventually studied in Otago and went overseas to work, and I just ended 3 years in Norway. And it reminds me of how progressive that country can be and how I can bring that to New Zealand, or what concepts anyway. But I'm not very optimistic about this election, and I'm trying to think long term. I think centre left needs to be severely wounded and sort of need to be ambitiously reborn. So my question is really about like the regressive function that the center plays, and how, if we can change it, or if it's just a matter of letting the dinosaurs pass. So I'm embarrassed when I tell people that there's a guy that nearly will come into government that wants to put offices in bathrooms, that when the election came, Hipkins burned the option of returning plastics and cans in supermarkets, which was super effective in Scandinavia. And that when the referendum happened, the progressive Jacinda politicized or hid her opinion so that she could get the center votes. So, yeah, I just wanted to ask you guys, how do we change this sort of vicious cycle in the middle? How do we sort of introduce more progressive movements?
I think it's a really interesting question. I don't know if there's an sorry to be a dick, but I don't know if there's an answer to it. Because when we talk about progressive, I think about like not the majority of the left. I think it's growing because I think the demographic for progressives is growing. So probably attrition is the way that we're going to get there. Although, I mean, if you've been listening to what we've been saying for months now, Chew and I have been saying is the problem with the Labor government is they're too afraid to go to places where there are popular policies like a wealth tax or like a capital gains tax. They're popular amongst 50+% of the population. So these quote unquote progressive policies seem to be becoming more mainstream. So I don't actually know why they don't want to do it. I have to be a pessimist and go, I mean, they don't have donors like the US has donors, but certainly money influencing politics. Maybe they don't want to piss off the people who are the Labour Party elites from the last 40 years who sit in those areas where the money is. I don't know. But I think the attrition is the natural way to become more progressive, because there's that old saying that, if you don't vote to the left when you're young, you've got no heart. And if you don't vote to the right, you've got no brain when you're old. I don't actually agree with it. I think what happens is the previous generation becomes a little bit more conservative. So boomers are more conservative than Gen Xers, who are more conservative than Gen Ys, who are more conservative than Gen Zs. So as the generations go on, we get naturally more and more progressive. So to a Gen Y, me as a Gen X looks like a boomer. And they're just naturally becoming more progressive. So a long-winded answer, I think, to say to you that I think it's probably mostly going to come through attrition, waiting for the oldies to die off, and it'll get there more and more and more, unless we can get someone leading that Labour Party who's a vowed socialist, Chewy. No, I'm kidding. Who might actually go, hey, dicks, these are actually popular, and dragging them there. But I would think it's more likely to be through attrition myself. What about you, Chewy?
Yeah, like a lot of what you said echoes with me, right? So I grew up in a similar town, but in the South Island and around the same similar things. My background is a lot of my childhood. I remember my dad being unemployed through factories leaving town and all of that sort of stuff. So, that's always been in my mind, and that's always been how I vote. Not necessarily for me, but for we is, how I sort of roll. And I think Labour's definitely lost their way. and they've become very much a centrist party rather than a workers' party. And a lot of the people that I talk to very much echo what you said. Well, maybe they need to take a hiding in this election to realize where they're going wrong. And maybe that's sort of natural culling of members when they receive a hiding and they go into the opposition benches and a leader resigns because he lost an election. Hopefully better talent comes through. I wish it wouldn't be like that. I wish they would, like as Pat said, just see, oh look, all the research says that the capital gains tax is a hugely popular thing. Oh, all of our supporters say that free dental care for everyone is. We're just going to steal the Greens' homework. We're just going to take it wholesale. I wish they would see that. But there's a lot of people, you know, as you said, that think they're on the left and they're in the centre, or they're worried about doing these big transformative changes. They're like, no, we'll just take it slow and steady, and we'll get there in the end. In the meantime, people are hurting. So, yeah, I don't have an answer anyway.
Well, I think one other thing is the problem as well with having the left burn down, like razed to the ground so they can rebuild, is then you get 3, 4, 5 cycles with the Donald Trump type character, and what damage that could do. How long will that take to recover? But who knows? But ArabKing, you can wrap up, Arab, if you want to say anything else, and then we've got a couple of other people that want to speak, so we'll move on. So how do you want to wrap this call up?
Yeah, no, that was very instructive. Yeah, thank you for everything you guys do. It's a really good exposure, and it's always good to have a progressive perspective.
Cool, man. All the best. Hey, thanks for being a part of us tonight.